Welcome. All right, so we've started recording. Again, if you're just joining us, please put your town that you're zooming in from in the chat box so we can see where everyone's from. And I'd like to welcome you all to the AARP, the final in our brain health series. I hate to see it end. It's been so amazing. My name's Linda Kruger, and I'm an AARP volunteer in Juneau. And on behalf of AARP Alaska, I'd like to welcome you to the last in our 6-part brain health webinar series. But the series lives on, and you'll get email later today or tomorrow with a link to today's session, and you'll be able to access all the prior 5 sessions that we've had as part of this series. Today, our guest speaker is Dr. Mauricio Reynoso from the Alaska Sleep Clinic up in Anchorage. And we're so excited for you to join us today, Dr. Mauricio, and the rest of you who are out there. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to get started with some Zoom meeting tips. Those of you who have been on know the meeting tips, but for any newcomers, I'd like to share a few technical tips. The first is the unmute button. Your microphone should be on mute at all times unless you're asking a question and we've called on you to ask a question. You can tell it's on mute if it has a red line through it. If it doesn't have a red line through it, just click on that microphone at the bottom of the page to mute. And then click it again when you want to unmute and talk. But keeping yourself on mute prevents a lot of background noise, and that's annoying for all of us. The next button you'll find is the video button. The video button is where you can be on camera or off camera, but we recommend that you stay off camera because it saves bandwidth doing the presentation. If there's a red line through the button, you're off camera. And so, like I said, we want you to keep your camera off during the presentation. And right at the end, we'll ask you to turn your camera on so we can see everybody's face and say thank you for the great series and the great session today. If you click the participant button, which is the next button, you'll see a list of everyone on this call, on this Zoom. It'd be helpful if you could rename yourself if you're logged in with a telephone number or something other than your name. And you can do that by clicking on the 3 little dots just to the right of your name on that participant list. That way you can log in with your name and we'll know who you are. The next button is a chat button. We're going to be asking you to respond in chat and also use the chat if you have a question. Click on the icon and then type in the box and hit enter when you're done. If you haven't already, again, this is where you type in the community where you're joining us from today. The next button is the reactions button. If you click on this icon, you'll see that you can raise your hand. There's a whole bunch of reactions that you can have, but this is where you can raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question verbally. We're recording this program and we'll send out the recording and all of the links from the chat after the program today, probably this afternoon sometime. So watch for that. AARP has asked me to share a disclaimer that this session is intended to be informational only and does not contain medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should always seek the advice of a physician or another qualified healthcare provider regarding your personal health and before beginning or changing any treatment, activity, or program. AARP is not responsible for any decisions or actions taken in reliance upon or as a result of the information provided during this event. The information we covered today is intended to help people make informed decisions on how to lead a lifestyle that supports their brain health. AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization for people over the age of 50. We have 38 million members nationally and 77,000 members across Alaska. AARP's mission is to empower people to choose how they live as they age and to optimize their power. We encourage people to save for retirement, stay healthy and fit, including brain health that we're going to be talking about today, building strong relationships, and having meaningful activity in their life. AARP on aging issues for Alaskans over the age of 50 through advocacy, working on international issues like Social Security, Medicare, prescription drugs, and at the state level, we're advocating for telehealth, a sustainable state budget, senior grant programs, and healthcare. We will also work on education, such as this session on brain health, technology use, veterans services, gardening, fraud prevention, caregiving resources, and financial planning. We engage with member engagement by hosting social groups, movie nights, guest lectures, exercise groups, and many more events. So check locally with your local AARP group to see what local activities you might have. And also check any information that you get from AARP Alaska. They'll have a schedule and a calendar of events. Through community action, we have local teams in Juneau, Ketchikan, Anchorage, and Matsu, community action teams working to make their community more age-friendly. And we want to get started. We always want to get started with some good news. Until recently, the prevailing scientific wisdom held that the human brain was pretty much fixed early in life. And experts believe that at birth, our brain had all the cells that we were ever going to have. Fortunately, based on today's research, we know there's good news that regardless of our age, our brain is constantly changing and can make new nerve cells. We can do a lot to take charge of our brain health and improve our quality of life. Experts say, in fact, that only 30% of physical aging can be traced to our genes. The rest is left up to us. So that's a lot that we have responsibility for. So we can get going today with brain health. The AARP's Global Council on Brain Health has identified 6 pillars of a lifestyle that supports healthy brain health: eat right, ongoing exercise, engage your brain, be social, manage stress, and restorative sleep. And if you've been with us, we've covered eat right, ongoing exercise, engage your brain, be social, managing stress. And finally, we've arrived at restorative sleep, the last one on our agenda. Today, Dr. Mauricio Reynoso will share information on how sleep quality affects our brain health, as well as ways to improve our sleep quality. So this will be the information that you can act on. Dr. Reynoso currently works at the Alaska Sleep Clinic. He has numerous degrees in addition to sleep medicine. He's also board certified in pulmonary medicine, which is important as many sleep disorders are related to respiratory issues. He's authored and collaborated with multiple papers published in peer-reviewed journals, such as the New England Journal of Medicine. We've probably all heard of that one. CHEST, the American Review of Respiratory Diseases, Respiration Physiology, and the Journal of Bronchology. And I can tell you, I've not read any of those except the New England Journal of Medicine. So many of those are new to me. Prior to coming to Alaska, Dr. Reynoso was an instructor of medicine at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and also has been an assistant professor of medicine and clinical assistant professor of medicine at the Pulmonary Division at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, Texas. And somehow he made his way to Anchorage, Alaska. Welcome, Dr. Reynoso.
Thank you. So let's start the presentation.
All right, so I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, and let me see. I need to have the sharing. Are we already in sharing? Can you give me some
Nope,
feedback?
you need to.
No. All right. And so next slide and screen. I don't see that. I got the link and I don't want to live.
So it should just be the box that at the top of your screen that says share, the little green box often.
Okay. Display setting, duplicate, no. Short taskbar. No, as you see that disappeared once I stop sharing. All right.
So if you move, I don't know if it's at the top or the bottom, but if you move your cursor up or around that area, it will pop up again. We practiced, but obviously.
Not to come
This
back.
always
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. No, it's all just sharing that.
So if
And
not, I have the slides you sent us previously. It just won't be
yeah,
with the changes you made.
I would prefer to do that. Hey, God.
So are your controls on the top or the bottom of the screen?
I got limited controls on the bottom, but not all of them. That's a pro.
So maybe go to the 3 dots.
Yeah, yeah. I went to the 3 dots. It says last view, high percenter view screen, and a subtitle camera, Tanberry, which is the one that I have, and keep slide update help.
So
and
Katie, can you make him a co-host?
I did.
You did, okay.
should I go just
Now it should be in the bottom center of your screen, Dr. Reynoso. Should be at the bottom center in your control panel. You may need to hover.
I'm gonna end the slide session and then I'm gonna share again. Now and I'm gonna go there and now I'm gonna share. Now we okay. Share that one. Now it should be.
There we go.
Now
you just have to make it full screen.
Yeah. And you got that. Now, can you see me? Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Pretty good. Let me just go. So thank you for having me again. Today, as we review, we're going to see the information about sleep related to brain health and the process of aging. Obviously, sleep is essential for human life. That vital function of sleep has not been appreciated too much in the past. And to the point that sleep, at least from some surveys in America, and I would say around the world, industrialized world, has been reduced and not taken as much important in the past. Nightly sleep in the United States has been reduced. And at least in the young adult population, which the economically active, most of them, the sleeping less than the recommended at least 7 hours per night has more than doubled. Moreover, having both low and high number of hours sleep are associated with increased mortality. That's not causation, but at least there's an association that we should look at into that. Now, we're going to be focusing on aging when we get older. And in general, and this is relatively good news, older adults that by the National Sleep Foundation poll was defined as patients after 55 and they study until 84. They have more consistency in their sleep number of in the sleep hours. Essentially, weekdays and weekends, pretty much little variation, and that's understandable. On the other hand, younger adults usually weeknights are briefer. They are brief, 6.7 hours, and they try to catch up on weekends. So that's essentially relatively current information of what the trends in sleep are. A small proportion of people will have, in older adults, less than 6 hours. And again, we said that those short sleepers may have increased mortality, and that would represent about 11 to 13%. and more than or equal to 9 hours would be about 8% compared to less so in younger, older people, in a way. Sorry that because of the redundancy there. So that is essentially what is right out there. So the next issue is what is normal and what is not normal. So in reality, there are many changes that we can see throughout our lifespan, you know, from big time number of hours when we are children, adolescents, to some reductions in different parameters or actually increase in others when we get older. So in general, the total time of sleep is slightly reduced when we get older. The sleep efficiency, which is defined as number of the time that you actually sleep versus the time that you are in bed, is reduced slightly. So less efficient means you wake up, stay awake longer. That correlates with the other that conversely increases in the amount of time that it takes you to sleep, in the amount of time that you stay awake during the night, and the number of arousals. All those have implications. Another change that is very common and seen in older age is that changes in our circadian timing. We call it advanced sleep. What it means is that you are probably very aware of the fact that older people tend to go to bed earlier and at the same time wake up earlier. That sometimes is confused with insomnia. That doesn't mean insomnia. It just means that your circadian rhythm, your rhythm of sleep, your internal clock shift a little bit before. But that's not so severe that poor sleep should, and it's not and should not be a normal part of aging. So if we see in the whole context, normal older people, they sleep about, as we said, 7 hours, probably 7 to 8 hours. The range that we thought it would be healthy is 6 to less than 9 hours. Younger adults, if left without that behaviorally induced insufficient sleep because of many things in life, tend to sleep longer. So bottom line, there's a lot of changes that can be measured with older adults, but that doesn't mean that poor sleep is part of it. Poor sleep is not a natural consequence of getting older. Now, with all this, that we are based on statistics and study, I have to go a little bit deeper, not so much, trying to go into current knowledge about how sleep interact and maintain brain health. And brain health, actually, we are focusing mostly on cognition and cognitive issues and related to age. So normal adult sleep is composed of 2 stages: the non-rapid eye movement, non-REM, and REM. And we're all familiar because I see many patients come into my office and they say, "Oh, I'm concerned because, golly, I didn't see REM in my watch, and I'm losing REM, and I don't want not to have that deep sleep." So a little bit of confusion many times, but just as you want to clarify, because it's very important trying to understand what those stages are. So the REM sleep is a stage of active sleep. That's where typically, classically, you dream more. It's a very active metabolically in the brain. So you start, a lot. If you see a PET scan of the brain and you're not an expert in brain, you see an awake brain and a REM brain, they're similar. Obviously, not if you are an expert, you can say which is which. So that is the REM. But what is the importance of REM? We'll see it in a subsequent slide. But that's one stage. That represents about a quarter of our sleep, a normal sleep, roughly, with certain variation, obviously. The other stages are what we call stage 1, 2, and 3, easy like that. Stage 3 is what we call deep sleep or delta sleep. That's a stage that has a lot of relevance for cognition and brain health. And those are essentially slow wave. So next time that we refer, my deep sleep, that we refer to the stage 3 of non-REM sleep, and the REM sleep is the one that we typically associate with dreaming, etc. So what are the changes in those stages during aging? Mostly during middle age, we have a reduction of deep sleep. So that slow sleep that we said. So there's some reduction that actually later on, when we get even older, is maintained. So that doesn't go down all the way. We can talk about, in the past, we all thought that the reduction in delta wave was because we were getting older and the EEG didn't allow to measure, etc. That's not true. Now, in addition, when we get older, our density of REM is a little bit reduced, and in general, we're more vulnerable to having sleep disruption. Now, here it
So
comes.
we have a question.
Yes.
About the watches or the things that track your sleep. Are those accurate?
Well, the answer is we do not know. And in general, I would say no, because those are based on different algorithms that most of the times we don't know what the algorithms for are. They're the studies that have been done, mostly they are accurate in terms of actigraphy, determine sleep time, active, inactive. But those ones that try to diagnose or report REM stages or deep sleep, those are better seen with a little bit of a skepticism. Okay. And they shouldn't be used to base your health decision based on that, on saying how much REM you got. It's okay to establish if you have so many hours of sleep in healthy population. Those other watches has not been used reliably. And again, we don't know what the algorithms are, and that is a problem. So each watch manufacturer got a different algorithm. But they got certain utility, obviously, but I wouldn't rely only on that. So let's continue here. This is a relatively new part, and both non-REM and REM sleep are important for brain health. So what is the importance? They are, number one, is well known that they help in memory consolidation and learning processes. In addition, and this is relatively new, since published in about 10 years ago, deep sleep is important in the clearance of substances that may cause damage to the brain, and such as misfolded proteins and byproducts of the metabolism and so forth. And this was not appreciated until, again, roughly a decade ago. We didn't know that the brain got a system that used the cerebral spinal fluid to wash off all this toxic, potentially toxic substances. And that is called the glymphatic system. that's how it's been named, and it means that these cells, there are certain cells that are non-neurons, and we didn't know exactly, how would that function and how would they clean, because we always had in med school, they say, oh, the glia, those cells that belong in the middle of the neurons, help in many ways, but we didn't know how will clean exactly that. And what they do is that they form this in this graphic here on the left, actually it's a picture, they form little tubes that essentially drain fluid, cerebrospinal fluid, or fluid into the cerebrospinal fluid. So moreover, there is an association, and that's the importance of having deep sleep. The deep sleep has been shown to be in synchrony with changes in brain perfusion, and at the same being like the pump that clean this. So let me show you this very interesting. You're seeing there that red on the brain on the right, and focus on that. That's the perfusion. It means blood have to do. Now, when you have the deep sleep, we said that it was a slow sleep, remember? So that slow sleep reduces the flow of blood, because when the neurons work less, they require less blood. So those ones, so that the slow wave cause that the brain perfusion and metabolism is reduced. The brain perfusion creates essentially a vacuum, because if you got less blood in your brain, that space needs to be filled. And if you notice down here in that blue triangle there in the lower part, that blue triangle means is a wave of fluid. So in this paper, and this is, we're talking about 2019, there was the confirmation of this entrainment of and more than association, essentially causation. This low wave forms causing this washing of the brain tissue. So that's the way. So that's where now we're focusing also on trying to achieve a deep sleep. Now, unfortunately, there are some medications that I use for many other things that may have that, but they are not practical in the sense that they got probably some more side effects. And even now, I just read this week here in Houston that Rice University got a grant from the military that to get an apparatus trying to modulate and increase deep sleep. So people are working essentially a lot on that. So in summary, so the brain health also requires of good sleep, and the good sleep is not only the deep sleep, but also the REM sleep. The REM sleep is very important in consolidating our memories. So if you advise to younger people, and if you go for a test and all that, that's what the old-fashioned recommendation is, like, have a good night before your test, because you kind of settle better your knowledge there. All right, so let me see. So what is a good sleeper versus poor sleeper? Well, I mean, good sleeper say, you know what, I'm in very health. Otherwise, I don't see doctors too many times, and I don't take too many medicines. That's kind of intuitive. That's nothing new. But the poor sleepers in general have more comorbidity. That's what it means. And in general, there are three types. I mean, I would say two that are common to younger people, like sleep disorders, medical, well, actually older people who have, in general, more medical conditions, and neuropsychiatric disorders. And as a result of that, they may take more medicine. So that's what essentially happens. And when you see those, you say, okay, now you're telling me that brain health is good sleep, but when you get older, now you got this other conditions that essentially will make you have not that good brain health. So those are things that we evaluate every time that we talk to people with sleep complaints. So common to all of those are sleep deprivation. So anything, any sleep disorder or any unhealthy habit had underlying sleep deprivation. And the main thing in terms of brain health is to reduce cognition. So the memory lapses, learning inability, and making not good decision, executive function, reduce attention. Those are related to the brain. Then we got, sleep essentially. We're here focusing with brain health, but it's sleep got essentially an influence on every single function of our body. Every single cell may have even, pacers that have to do with the things that happen during sleep and wake cycle. So we all familiar with the insomnia, sleep apnea, and other conditions that are associated with increased cardiovascular morbidity and mortality. Also metabolic conditions such as diabetes and obesity, that is very famous. That although I have to admit, this issue of leptin and ghrelin, the two hormones initially that we associate with satiety and hunger, that's not that simple, and we are not yet there, but eventually we will, because they are more than just those two hormones or substances that are, but have to do with obesity and have to do with sleep. And one of the things is motor vehicle accident, also with sleep deprivation, and even infection predisposition are related to sleep deprivation. So as an example, when you got an infection, you tend to sleep more. So there's a restorative part of sleep, even with that. So,
Doctor, we have a question.
Yes.
What is, on your previous slide, what is executive function? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, that's a term, is decision making. Yeah, not executive that you work an executive in a company. Is essentially the ability to make good decisions. That's the executive function.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you may have not that good memory, and actually, older people, the memory tends to have a more difficult time creating new memory. They create, but it's slower. But because of all your prior experience, you make a better decision many times. Yeah, so they're different. And learning also have to do with when I mentioned there, manual and cognitive interaction there. So let me see here. No, we're going the other way. Now, in terms of the three conditions that we said, good sleeper versus poor sleeper, that affect your sleep, are the famous sleep disorder. That's what I'm specialized, and the most common one is sleep-related breathing disorders. That's when you got your sleep apnea, obstructive, central, and snoring, and all the things there. That's called group into the sleep-related breathing disorder. Insomnia is the other big one. Depend on where you look at. It could be a chronic event in about 10%, and most of the people, 30% of, not most, 30% of the people in a particular year may have insomnia. Hypersomnia means excessive sleepiness during the daytime that is not due to insomnia or other reason that you can pinpoint, like sleep breathing disorder or other sleep disorder. And that's more like either different conditions, even medications may cause hypersomnia. You got the idiopathic hypersomnia, but in older people, idiopathic is less common that you show up at older age, or the narcolepsy, so that's very uncommon. Most of the hypersomnia in older age are related to medications or CNS disorders like strokes and etc. Parasomnias in adults, so people that enact dreams is very common in older adults, and may unfortunately be a precondition for Parkinson's and neurodegenerative diseases. And we talk about the circadian rhythm that older adults sleep earlier. We're not talking about that. Some of them is that they may actually sleep earlier and too early, and may be related to issues like poor habits or light, ambient light changes, etc. Then you got the sleep-related movement disorders, very common, and all of them again may cause the same symptoms. So healthy sleep, that's what we're talking about here. We talk about quantity, we talk about the quality, deep, REM, and all that, and we talk about regularity. But how can we try to achieve a healthy sleep? And we put emphasis on sleep hygiene. So those are practices that promote you to have a good quality of sleep. And and this slide probably is long, but I think that's the meat of practical advices there that we can give you. So we all said you need at least 7 hours of sleep in the older age. Don't go necessarily for less because they think that you're older. So how do you achieve that? So obviously this is before you consider having necessarily a medical problem or an intrinsic sleep disorder or changes due to medicine. So adjust bedroom environment, noise, temperature. You know that the temperature that promotes sleep is not a hot room. It's more like in the cool side of the temperature. That's not a problem in Alaska, most likely. Light is very important. Light is one of the main resettings of our internal clock. Many things sometimes, and I ask very commonly, pets, there are people that they sleep with their dogs or cats, and that is a factor of sleep disruption. And obviously the bed partner can become an environmental sleep disorder, meaning the noise if the partner is a heavy snorer. So e-reading is very common. E-reading is very bad. There's a significant amount of people. I mean, 80% of the people that has been surveyed, they have some form of screen that they look at it at night. And the worst is that within 2 hours of going to bed, the proportion is very high as well, probably 40% or so. So that's one thing that may delay your sleep and cause that you fall asleep later. And then if you have to wake up at a certain time, that will create insufficient sleep. So it's one thing that in modern life has become a potential problem for obtaining a good sleep. So in general, no e-reading. I don't know if anybody is going to ask, but those screens studies are not that conclusive, but if you have to read a screen, try to put it in the night mode, and may even try one of those glasses or screens for blue light blockage there. Another thing very common, people try to have some racing thoughts, and we're not talking about people with psychiatric conditions. I mean, just regular people, day-to-day worries and so forth. And that comes into in a way, bad habits. So if you have and see yourself having problems and getting, oh, I have to take the kids tomorrow, the grandkids, whatever, and then I have to do this. Do all that before going to bed. So you got the sensation of that you finish and you close the day. If you don't have to solve all the words, all the problems of the world, or all your problems, as long as you put them there in perspective and say, okay, this one I can solve, this one I can table, this one I'm gonna work on one day. You achieve a little bit more sense of accomplishment at the end of the day. And obviously, the very common, do not drink alcohol close to bedtime, caffeinated beverages. With the caffeinated beverages, you have to be careful. It all depends on how you metabolize that, and as how much caffeine and so forth. Some people are very sensitive to it, and the half-life may even go up to the usual quoted number. So you have to be particular about what the effect of caffeinated beverages on you and in your sleep is. With
Dr. Reynoso, we have another question. How long should you wait between, like if you're an e-reader, between reading and then going to bed?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Definitely not 2 hours, okay? The minimum is 2 hours, yeah. And it all depends on the intensity of the reading. But I would recommend that you don't read 2 hours before.
Okay, thank you.
And then the alcohol, if you take it, there are several ways that people use alcohol. Those who got insomnia will use it sometimes as a hypnotic. And actually it does work at the beginning because it puts you to sleep. But then 3 to 5 hours later, you're going to have a rebound. And actually you're going to rebound from REM. There's going to be more REM, and you're going to wake up. And then because it's a muscle relaxant, probably during non-REM, you start having some snoring. So you wake up from REM with a dry mouth. So that's what the acute effect of alcohol. So try to avoid, I mean, obviously, if you got a special occasion and you're celebrating something, you're gonna celebrate with alcohol. Well, I mean, that's once in here and there, but not as a regular habit. So that if you're gonna take some wine or some other alcohol, take it earlier at night and take into consideration that causes sleep disruption. The same thing smoking is going to cause is essentially some alertness, you know, and the caffeine obviously will kill your adenosine. Adenosine is a substance that is accumulated during the day in response to all your activity and wakefulness. But the caffeine kind of interacted and nullifies, so you don't sleep. That's the idea. We talk about exercise, and probably have talked before the exercise and brain health. But in terms of exercise, the ideal, which is not necessarily too practical, but if you got the opportunity to time your exercise, I would say do it 4 to 5 hours before bedtime, but certainly not 2 hours, because all your adrenaline, noradrenaline, all those stimulants will be high. And the idea is to put them high, and then the sleep will come when you start phasing off those, and they come down. And that's how so your temperature will come down. Temperature is another reason. Remember that famous warm bath before bedtime? It's not right before bedtime. We recommend hour, 2 hours. So your warm water or hot water, your temperature goes up, body temperature, and then in your way down, that's when your non-REM kicks in. Those are essentially little details about exercise and the warm bath. And the main thing, if you are having problems with sleep, the best thing to do is start to establish a regular bedtime and wake time. And then we're saying regular because some people, essentially especially younger ones, will have a schedule for the weekends and a schedule for the weeknights. So if you are having issues with sleep and not having a good restorative sleep, I recommend that you get essentially a regular bedtime and wake up time. And then obviously associate your bed with sleep. I always tell patients, they say, doctor, do you watch TV? And I say, yes. Not unfortunately, I do watch TV in bed. But I say, so how come you're telling me that I cannot watch TV at night? And I say, because you have the problem. I don't have the problem. You have to know yourself. That's the practical recommendations. I mean, we tend to recommend no big time lights and all that, but you can adjust. And then if you don't have any problem, if you got a pretty good sleep, you could do it. That's a little bit out of the usual dictum that I say no TV in the bed. We don't have to be so radical there. And then eating, don't go to bed with a full stomach, because obviously every single GI functions goes down with sleep. So you're going to have less digestion there. And then don't go hungry because you're going to wake up. And if you have sleep problems, do not nap during the day. So if you got a question of insomnia, fragmented sleep, what you're doing is killing your drive. That's what you're doing, your sleep drive. Now, nap could be a good thing or a bad thing. So it's not all bad, all good. And the next thing, and especially in Alaska, sometimes could be a problem certain part of the year, is adequate exposure to natural light in the morning. Not too early, but they say that a regular wake up time is better in the first hours of the day. Later on, if you get bright light at noon, that doesn't have much effect on your circadian rhythm. It have to be earlier.
So we had another question.
Yeah.
It's about there's a lot of stuff going on in the chat, but it was about reading. So if you're just reading a regular book, which engages your mind, does that affect your sleeping?
It's how much it engages you. If you want to finish a chapter, and so who killed the whatever, the person there, or who is that and that, that's not going to let you sleep much. Eventually you will fall. But yeah, so the idea is that, yeah, you read, but it's not affecting. Obviously the light issue is not there. Yeah, you can read. And as long as you're not studying or doing, some more involved, but it's just pleasure. Reading for pleasure is okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
So napping and aging. So older people tend, essentially to nap, and it's very prevalent. But again, all depends on what nap means. I got patients that obviously nap because they take medicines that make them sleepy, or they got diseases that make them sleepy. But there are some other ones that nap because they exercise too much, and then you take a nap, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in general, all depend what the context is of the napping. Again, if you are having problem with insomnia, avoid napping. So the other issue, so we talked about those other issues, and then the sleep apnea is very prevalent, okay? And most of you have heard about that. And the importance is that cognitive function is preserved if you have significant sleep apnea. So that's well documented. Now, the sleep apnea increase in prevalence, mostly in middle age, but then after certain age, the prevalence is not higher up in the general population. In women, women got relatively less until they got menopause. So menopause is a big catch up with males. So after menopause, there's more prevalence of sleep apnea in women. The obesity and the male predominance, therefore, are less so in older people. Now, the presentation also may be different. It's like a sleep fragmentation because they have to go too many times to the bathroom, or they have problem with cognition, or very typically the cardiologist ended because they have some arrhythmias, the atrial fibrillation and flutter. So those are the particularities of sleep apnea in older people. But that doesn't mean that because you're older, you don't need to be treated. Very commonly, I've seen patients that they send it with a mild cognitive impairment and to check if they have sleep apnea because they said that they snore, because that's definitely is going to save you some neurons, and that's one thing that you can actually do. Even in patients with a diagnosis of Alzheimer's may help.
So we have two questions about
Yeah.
sleep apnea. One, is sleep apnea more prevalent now, or was it always there and people just didn't know about it?
Catch 22. I would say it obviously, like anything, that it is prevalent. The prevalence that they have before is because we diagnosed the most severe ones. So the history of sleep apnea has evolved because the importance of sleep apnea also, that's my view, the importance has kind of shifted a little bit. And now we realize that sleep apnea is important for a bunch of things. We never talked about sleep apnea and diabetes in 1980 something, we didn't. Diabetes and sleep apnea, or cognitive impairment in sleep apnea, we didn't talk about that. Or atrial fibrillation in sleep apnea. We talk about car accidents, cor pulmonale, and death back then. So the more you start looking at a particular subject, the more you find and try to establish the limit. I know what that question probably mean. In my view, it was always that. It's just a matter of when you want to diagnose. The diagnosis has not changed, for many, many, many years. So we define apnea hypopnea. What we're going to do with that diagnosis is different.
So, well, right on the heels of that, they're on TV, there's these commercials about you don't have to wear a sleep apnea mask anymore. I don't know, I assume they do surgery or they do something in your nose. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that. That's a particular one. There's only one approved here, one device. And it's a stimulator of the muscle, the main muscle of the tongue is the genioglossus muscle. So essentially is a pacemaker, in other words, is a pacemaker that you implant actually on the right side because we usually leave the left side for the heart. And then a tiny wire, and then there's an electrode that pays this nerve. It's called hypoglossus, but it's just a branch of that nerve. And that what we do is you do and synchronize in a way your breathing with forward movement of the tongue. In that way, it will open the back of the throat. Now, that being said, why do we use that? It's approved for patients who are intolerant to CPAP or positive airway pressure, CPAP, APAP, BiPAP, all the PAPs that you got there, cannot use it. Why? Because number one is a surgery. Number two is more expensive. Number three, so far now at this stage, because that is going to evolve like anything, but now the efficacy is not as good as a CPAP that is used well. So let's say in the studies that were there, most of the people stop breathing 30 times an hour. And the outcome was it went down to 7 to 9, which is extremely good. So you got a patient with severe sleep apnea with all the bad complications, and now you get mild sleep apnea. But I've seen also particular patients that where they go even less than 5. So in certain patients might be good. So, but it's not a first line. That's the whole point. It is not a first line therapy.
Then one more question while we're stopped. If you snore but have been tested negative for sleep apnea, are there some recommendations to stop snoring?
Yeah. So, and you have to be careful what kind of test you do. If you do, I will accept that if the patient underwent in laboratory study, meaning that they went to the lab, and not necessarily that I'm against home sleep apnea test, is that a home sleep apnea test, the way that it is now, confidently cannot tell you that you don't have mild sleep apnea. So to the point that most of the insurances and because those are the ones that many times direct even the care is that you say you don't say you don't have sleep apnea. You have sleep apnea in the home sleep apnea test or non-diagnostic. So if you went to the lab and they told you, no, you really have just snoring, we call it primary snoring. So what is the alternative for primary snoring? It could be nothing. If it's not bothering you, your partner, or even your dog there, you don't do anything because it's not bothering you if it is not waking you up. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is bothering you or somebody else, and is significant. So you can have, it may be just a matter of if you can sleep on your sides or abdomen, that would help a lot. And also dental appliances are should be considered. And in very particular situations, they have to be very well defined. If they have any indication for surgery, but I wouldn't send to abolish your snoring surgery. It's kind of painful. That's not first line. And weight loss also will help in snoring. Many people just are at the border and they lose the weight and they don't snore much, and then comes to the not completely abolished, but almost undetectable, and it becomes not a problem anymore. So those are the things that can be done. So everybody with snoring, lose weight, your exercise and a positional therapy. And if you're still bothering somebody, consider a dental plan.
All right. Well, we are coming up to the hour, so we're going to hold the questions till the end.
Okay.
And I'll let you go ahead through your slides.
Yeah, okay. So essentially, these other slides is essentially the factors about that. We talk about some of them already. And this is essentially what we talk about: lose weight, avoid alcohol before bedtime, sedative, sleep deprivation, and avoid sleeping on the back as much as you can. It's not only always easy, to the point that positional therapy, in my view, is not a fix, at least for sleep apnea. It's not a fix. That's never really. It's difficult to consistently sleep only on your back. Very few people can do that. And we talk about the potential cardiovascular complications, but we today are talking about brain health. And the last issue that may affect significantly older adults, insomnia. So again, there was in some sometimes there's this misperception that older people sleep less, and we said no, they should not sleep less, and no, they shouldn't have insomnia. That's not an expected consequence. It may happen significantly because of medical and psychiatric comorbidities. So you have to identify if you have that problem and address that problem. Medication may cause insomnia. Multiple medications can cause insomnia. And as well as we said, the sleep apnea or the sleep disorder, and psychosocial factors. Also, that's another issue, self isolation, caregiving. If you have your partner is in need in the middle of the night, or many things, all those are contribute to insomnia. particularly to the older. The treatment initially is definitely cognitive behavioral therapy because you try not to add more medication, but if you have to add, there are certain medications that we have to consider, and all depend on your comorbidities in what else you have. Try not to give you any medicine that is highly addictive or non-addictive, like i.e. benzodiazepine. That's the last thing that I try to do for any patient with insomnia. So a cognitive behavioral therapy have to be done. And what means is behavioral therapies are things that help you beyond there are different techniques beyond the sleep hygiene. So I think that we can now stop and see if there's any other question.
All right, well, we have a few slides at the end, so if you'll stop sharing, I'll start again.
I've got one quick question to ask Dr. Reynoso. So I think a lot of folks have a question about waking up in the middle of the night, and what would be just a good recommendation for some practices to restore sleep when that happens?
Try to identify what is the cause. The most common causes of waking up in the middle of the night may nothing to do with sleep disorders. Maybe arthritis. Today I got a patient before coming to this talk. She got bad hand arthritis. She got dry eyes, and the other one was the racing thoughts. So you got a combo. So you have to try to identify. Some other people is your prostate, or your bladder, hyperactive bladder, because it's not normal to urinate at night. So unfortunately, most of the people, after you age, they wake up at least once or so, but it's not necessarily. There are a good percentage of patients that don't wake up older, that don't wake up at night. So identify, that would be my first recommendation.
Thank you for that.
All right, can you stop sharing?
Okay.
Great. Okay.
Let me see. Where is that remote? Here it is. Yeah, I found it.
Great. Well, thanks so much for that wonderful presentation. That was terrific. And I know I learned a lot, and I learned some things that I can implement. And we all know that the best thing that we can do is start to make a change. So think about the things you learned today. Pick something that you can start doing right away. Maybe it's get some blackout screens for your windows for those of us living in Alaska. I know mine certainly helped me. So start small, change your bedroom, create a bedtime routine, and make a note of those things that you think you can change to make a difference for you. And maybe post a Post-it note someplace or share it with a friend or relative, because sharing with friends and family can help you with your efforts to make a change. And AARP also has a number of online resources. We've shared those in the past. And you can go to these links. And again, all the slides and the links will be sent out to you after this presentation. And so you can get a hold of those then, or you can take a picture of them now if you want. And so you already know about the AARP resources. Most of these resources are available to everyone. The AARP.org/brain health has lots of free information and videos that you can link into and enjoy. The Global Council on Brain Health has a report and a video for each of the 6 pillars of brain health that we've covered in this series. So you can go into those and check that out. AARP members, and this is AARP members only, can enjoy the Staying Sharp resources, including free cognitive assessments, brain games, videos, recipes, and much more. And that's that Staying Sharp link down at the bottom of the slide. There are also a number of articles on sleep that you might want to check out. And the last link is to an AARP sleep guide that you need to be a member in order to access that one, an AARP member. But the other resources are available to anyone. And remember, we're going to be sending an email with a link to the recording, the slides, and links to all of the resources that we've discussed during this webinar. So let's find out who won today's copy of Sanjay Gupta's book, Keep sharp, build a better brain at any age. And everyone who registered for any one of the brain webinars is entered. Patrick, who's the winner today?
Today's winner is Barb Potter.
Oh, right, Barb! Yay!
Hip, 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 hooray!
I know one of our very own Juno AARP CAT members. Congratulations, Barb. That's great.
We'll be
Terrific.
sending those out by mail soon.
All right. And you've obviously probably noticed the survey that's popped up. If you can complete that survey for us, that would be terrific. We really appreciate that. And thank you for participating in today's program. Again, all these programs will be available online, and hopefully you'll revisit them and share them with friends and family. We hope you found this session helpful, and please let us know if you liked the program, what you liked about it, completing the poll, texting, putting in information in the chat box, whatever, that would be great. And if you have any ideas for upcoming webinars, also put those in the chat, because we'll be doing some more webinars in the future. If you're interested, again, in listening to any of the previous webinars, go to www.aarp.org/Alaska and click on the story titled "Take Steps Toward a Healthier Brain." And that will take you to the website that has the recordings of the previous webinars. And this one will be up there really soon. So again, I'd like to thank Dr. Mauricio Reynoso for sharing his knowledge with us today. What a bunch of information. I'm impressed. That was wonderful. Thank you for joining us for this webinar series. And we'll be hosting a webinar series every quarter. So there'll be more coming up. We're planning the next series on gardening, then veterans resources, financial planning, technology, and a workout series during the summer months. So to find out about upcoming events, check out the webpage, again, www.aarp.org/Alaska. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Great.
We really appreciate you.
Good to see you, Luann and Richard. I forgot to tell people to turn their cameras on. Nice to see you guys.
Great job. I learned a lot.
Thanks. Yeah, great. Glad you could join us.
Thank you, Dr. Reynoso.
All right, thank you. So
Thanks, Doc.
is there any way that I can get the recording? How do I get that?
Yes, we'll make sure to get that to you.
Oh, okay. So you got me. Okay, so I'll leave, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great.
Well, thank you, Linda, for hosting. What a nice series. And thank you
Right.
to all of you in the audience who joined us for one or more parts of this brain health series. I know that I'll be watching and rewatching some of the recordings and reinforcing my own action steps.
Me too, and sharing them with friends and family. Yeah, this was a wonderful series. I really appreciate this. This was a great opportunity to learn and share.